So, what happens when a prediction is trusted too quickly? Just imagine it. You've got a forecast that looks absolutely perfect. The math completely checks out, the line on your chart goes exactly where you want it to go, and everybody trusts it right away. But then, reality steps in, and it fundamentally disagrees.
This brings us to the story of Kabir's tea stall. Picture this. It's a Monday morning, and a mathematical prediction has told Kabir to expect a massive rush of customers, all based on the normal foot traffic of his street. So he trusts the math. He boils the milk, he preps 80 cups of tea, and he waits. But then, an unpredicted bus strike happens, sending all those morning commuters down a totally different road. By noon, he'd sold exactly 53 cups, and exactly 27 cups of tea were just sitting there on the counter, going completely cold.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because those 27 cold cups of tea, they aren't just a wasted morning. They're actually a doorway. That single, relatable moment of disappointment is our entry point into the real, living world of machine learning, linear regression, and human judgment. We're going to break down the anatomy of this mistake and discover how an error can literally become our greatest teacher.
Take a really close look here. You're not going to see any glowing, cyberpunk code floating in the air or futuristic robot brains. That whole aesthetic is just a myth. Real prediction, real machine learning, it starts right here in beautifully human everyday environments. It starts with a simple notebook, a cooling cup of tea, and a genuine question. You see, mathematics isn't some emperor handing down decrees. It's more like a servant carrying a lantern, just trying to help us navigate through uncertainty. Part 1. The cost of one line, and what happens when a prediction flies blind.
So Kabir had drawn this incredibly confident blue line on his board to predict Monday's sales using past footfall. But what if that line is wrong? Or honestly, what if the line is just blind? That line didn't know anything about a bus strike, it didn't know it was going to rain. It was trusted simply because it looked mathematically neat. But a prediction is not a destiny, right? It's really just an educated guess based on what it's seen before. And there's this profound, almost beautiful tension between the line and the dots. The line represents neat mathematical perfection, that confident prediction of 80 cups. But the dots? The dots are the messy, wonderfully varied, totally unpredictable reality of human movement, the 53 actual cups sold. That perfect line acted like a very confident witness in a courtroom, who actually hadn't seen the whole street.
Part 2. The birth of the era. Because, well, reality always has a little more to say.
So, the prediction missed. But here's the thing. A wrong prediction isn't something to be ashamed of, until we refuse to study it. If we hide our mistakes just because we want our math to look smart, we literally learn nothing. We have to fundamentally change how we view being wrong. A wrong prediction simply means our model finally met reality, and reality had some notes. In machine learning, we call this the residual. And please, don't let that technical term intimidate you. A residual isn't some scary, abstract math concept. Just think of it as a highly visible measuring tape, stretching right between our expectation and reality. It's simply the physical distance between the line we drew and the dot of what actually happened.
And this is where we get to introduce one of the absolute most powerful tools in learning, the mistake book. Every single time an error occurs, out comes the notebook. We calmly log what happened. We note exactly why that gap appeared, like, oh, the bus strike. We write down what we learned, and then we create a brand new rule for next time. And we do all of this without a drop of self-cruelty. Writing down the cause without any shame, that is how you turn an embarrassing failure into protective architecture for the future.
Part 3. The scatter speaks first, because it's time we actually listen to the dots. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that before we even attempt to draw a line, we have to listen to the scatter of dots. You have to look at them and ask, what if my data is incomplete? Or even better, what if that one totally unusual point is actually incredibly important? For instance, one day Kabir had this dot sitting way up above all the rest, a massive spike in sales that seemed to defy all logic. Was it a glitch in the matrix? No, it was the day his cousin came to visit, made a special batch of ginger cardamom tea, and half the street came back for seconds.
Now, it is so incredibly tempting to look at that unusual dot, what statisticians call an outlier, and just hit delete. Just scrub it out to make our line look perfectly clean and mathematically elegant. But think about it. If we blindly delete that dot, we are erasing the human story behind it. We're erasing the generosity, the special recipe, the exact thing that made that Tuesday so wonderful.
So instead, we return to the mistake book. We audit the spike. We learn that it was the ginger cardamom recipe. And our new system, We tag it as a special event, and we keep the data honest. A model should never, ever erase kindness or unique human events just because they happen to be mathematically inconvenient for a straight line.
Part 4. When the errors speak, is about making those large misses shout.
Once we've finally respected the dots, we need a way to measure all our mistakes across the board so we can find the best possible line. We need a system that makes the largest, most painful misses shout the loudest, forcing us to correct them. Let's make these abstract concepts totally visible for a second. The slope? It isn't just a formula. Imagine it as a physical hill becoming steeper as conditions change. The intercept is simply the starting gate before anything even happens. The residual, like we said, is that visible gap of error. And least squares? Well, imagine multiple thick ropes attached to our line. The bigger the error, the thicker and heavier the rope, literally pulling the line into its most honest, balanced position.
So eventually, your software is going to give your model a score. It's a shiny trophy number called R², and it looks incredibly impressive on paper. But what if a high score hides a weak model? What if the model actually learned the completely wrong lesson? The truth is, a really high average score can be dangerously misleading.
There's a great saying for this. A trophy number can hide the case that hurts most. Sure, an impressive average score looks great, but it might completely fail Kabir on the specific days he needs it the absolute most, like during high-stakes university exam weeks, where missing the mark by 20 cups costs him dearly. A trophy number is just one window. It is definitely not the whole landscape.
Part 5. Better judgment and wisdom. Because math is totally blind without us.
So the crucial point is this. Machine learning and algorithms do not replace human judgment. They absolutely 100% require it. Without a human being there to ask why, to check the local context, to actually know the street, the math is just blind calculation. True first principles learning builds a beautiful bridge. On one side, you have emotional intelligence, EQ. That's the ability to look at an error, to look at 27 cold cups of tea, and not panic or spiral into shame. And on the other side, you have IQ, the mathematical ability to actually measure that gap. When you bridge those two together, that's when you get genuine, honest learning.
Let's bring this all the way full circle back to the tea stall. Before any formula is ever written down, before a single line of code is run, linear regression always starts with a human decision. It starts with the question. In Kabir's case, it was beautifully simple. How much milk should I boil today? Then comes the data. And remember, data isn't just cold, dead numbers sitting on some server in a desert. It is human movement. It's the weather, it's school exams, and yes, it's bus strikes. It is the breathing, constantly changing world captured in a little notebook as witnesses to reality.
And this brilliantly illustrates the final step, the decision. Because the ultimate goal of all this math isn't just to find a clever line. It's to confidently know how much milk to boil, armed with evidence, context, and above all, the humility to know that, hey, we might still miss.
Looking back at that very first Monday, we realized something really profound. The prediction wasn't evil. It wasn't stupid. The line was not wrong. It was just incomplete. It simply lacked the full, rich, messy context of the street, the rain, and the people.
You see, a prediction is not an order you have to follow blindly. It is just one witness in the room. A prediction is not the end. It is the beginning of responsibility. So now that you know the line is really just a tool waiting for your unique human judgment, completely free of any math anxiety, what are you going to predict next?